I can't promise you much, but I can promise you once a week, I'm going to hear the question, what is player development? I have heard this over 1,375 times in my 9-year career of providing value in the player development space. If I hear one more person on a call or student ask me about player development, I'm going to lose it. This is the 7th episode I am literally doing about this topic. I'm just kidding. But in all seriousness, it is important to know what player development is. And so today, I am diving the deepest I have ever, is it divin, dove into this question. And I am going to walk you through what player development is by going through slides. And I'm excited to dive in and tell you for the 3,269th time what player development is. And before we get to this, let me tell you a definition. Player development is the enhancement of the athlete experience through holistic and intentional programming and initiatives. Let's jump into these slides. Y'all got one more time to ask me what player development is. No, I'm just, I'm just playing. All right, so I kid, but I honestly do like talking about this subject because there's a lot out there. I don't want to call it confusion because people kind of can make it whatever it is. Every coach makes player development what they want it to be. But I love talking about it because trying to unify or bring congruency to the definition or to the role, because this role has so much impact. So we're going to talk about, like I said, what player development is. I'll go through a couple of slides, break some things down, talk about some things, and yeah, we'll go from there. So let's jump into the slides. All right, now how do I do this? All right, so somebody get Earl. Earl, how do I? Why is somebody always helping name Earl? It's somebody go get Earl. Uncle name Earl, somebody. All right, here we go. Player development presentation here. Let's jump in. Many of you have listened to the podcast. You've heard me say this definition of player development. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it every episode. I remember to say it. But player development is the enhancement of the athlete experience through holistic and intentional programming and initiatives. Player development is the enhancement of the athlete experience through holistic and intentional programming and initiatives. And so there's a podcast episode right here where I break down these 4 areas, but the big 4 words whenever I was doing things that guided me were enhancement, experience, holistic, and intentional. I break these 2 down in 2 books that I wrote, the Player Development Guide, which is in the show notes, and the Coach's Guide to Player Development, which is in the show notes as well, and just talking about how it was just such a focus. We want to enhance. What can we take this? So enhance and experience work together. How can we take this experience that this athlete has and provide enhancement to that experience? Okay, so we want to enhance the experience. Then we look at the experience. How can we, as we're enhancing it, how can we make the experience better? So it kind of those 2 work together. And then holistic, we're looking for programming or initiatives to take care of the athlete as a whole. That means everything they can touch, everything that has some importance to their life or some aspect of their personality or whatever you want to call it. And then intentional, just being intentional with the time you have. Once again, this one's can be tough because you can see this program do this, you can see this program do that. You may be in a place where you may not have to go take a trip to New York or LA because you're in Houston or Chicago, or Atlanta. So you can find some of those things that you can find in other places where you are, just being intentional. Or maybe it's not best for you. I had a conversation with someone in the role who's in a state or in a southern state where the city has been needing development for a while, just and been needing hands and teamwork. And we were talking about how, there were people like, hey, we should go to this city to help. And that professional was like, no, we need to help right here. So being intentional, not only with programming for the community, but for your players as well. That's the definition there. If anybody has anything they'd like to add to it, put it in the comments. I would love to see that. Once again, player development is the enhancement of the athlete experience through holistic and intentional programming and initiatives. All right, let's move to the next slide. So, what are some of the benefits of player development? Some of the benefits, right? You heard the definition. You may say, hey, but what are some of the benefits? Maybe you're a coach watching this. Maybe you're an athletic director. Maybe you're a principal, a president of a university, a superintendent of a school district, a leader of a youth organization, whatever it may be. This is why I have this here so you can see this. Also, I have my email in the show notes so you can reach out so we can work together. But here are some of the benefits of player development. You can make better men or citizens. So I was in football, so I put better men, but better people, citizens, because this can also work with women's sports. So better men, citizens, self-confidence. You can build self-confidence in your athletes. Once again, being intentional, a holistic aspect. Community engagement. I've talked about this multiple times on the podcast episodes. You could there's a great way you can engage your community. It's an incredible way you can do it, do player development. Engagement in the community can go on forever. You literally could just do engagement programs in the community. I've been places where we did so much. We're like, okay, we got to do some career stuff. We got to do some other stuff. But engaging the community is huge. You can help build a team morale. So when I was at KU, that was one thing that we wanted to do. Unfortunately, when I was there, we weren't winning as much on the field. We were taking efforts to get it done, but we had won 3 games in 2 years. So that was tough, as you know. And so for me in my role, I wanted to build morale and team. I wanted to show our athletes that, hey, you can accomplish something. You can get something done. You could be a winner in this aspect of life, like getting a resume done. That's a win, reaching out to someone, set up an informational interview. That's a win. An interview is a win. Going to a community, changing somebody's life, impacting the kid. That is a win. Going to a therapist or focusing on yourself, getting sleep, taking care of your entire physical, mental, all the wellnesses, your personal wellness, that is a win. So you can build a morale. And I knew I was sowing seeds, but it really hit me when one day I text somebody who's on the Kansas football staff and they're doing what we were there when we weren't winning. Now they're there when they are winning and doing absolutely great job. I still have some players there that I recruited. It's awesome to see y'all keep going. I'm going to check a game out this year. And I text this person, I say, hey, congratulations, they had made a bowl game. I was like, it's so awesome to see what y'all have done. And this person texts me back, hey, you had a part to play in this. You had a part to play in this. You helped change the mindset of our players. You helped build some of this. And I was like, wow, I was taken aback because I want to give people their flowers. So that was pretty awesome to receive those. But you can build the morale. And I talked about it a little bit. You can build a winning environment. I just talked about it in morale, where we were building winners off the field. We were building winners off the field. We were helping these young men win in areas they had never won in their life. We had first-generation college students. We had students who never knew about a resume, students who had never seen somebody go after a career. They had only seen people get jobs. We had students who had never met people from another side of the country, and now they're caring about their teammates. We were building a winning environment because we were building winning habits off the field. I am a big believer. Kurt Richardson, shout out to Kurt Richardson, said this during the player development conference, and you can find those recordings in the show notes. The Player Development Conference 2024 recordings are in the show notes. And what Kurt Richardson said was, he said, I am a big believer that player development helps with winning on the field. I am a big believer in that as well. I was at Baylor University. We won a Big 12 when I was there. I'm not saying it was just me, but I know that there were certain things that I was able to do to help those athletes, to help them be better off the field, to help them be better on the field. We won a championship. It was awesome. So going back to my story at KU, building those winning habits in those players, and not a lot of those players, some of those players did not get to see the wins that the players now are seeing on the field, but some of those players are seeing wins as fathers, husbands, entrepreneurs, employees in their career fields, in their personal lives, building foundations, building different things. They're nonprofits. That is huge. So when you look at really that whole deal, better men, for me, once again, I was in football, better citizens. I talked about voting, which you can find that podcast here. We were able to help our players, exercise their civic duty, and then the self-confidence we built in that winning environment. So a lot of that was built off what player development was able to do. And that's just that side of it. All right, now let me get to the other side of this slide. So identity engagement. This one's huge. I talk to people a lot about this. A lot of football players, it's easy to identify a football player, right? And I worked in football, so I'm gonna talk about football. They're gonna be big, they're gonna be strong, they're gonna be fast. And so when that kid peaks early, which most of them do, they're talked about is football. Football, football. You need to train, you need to go to the NFL, you need to go to this. And this is across all socioeconomic the socioeconomic spectrum, the demographic spectrum, race, whatever it may be, whatever you want to call it, every neighborhood, this happens. Like where children are like, hey, you need to go here, you need to get to the league, you need to get to this. Because so many times you hear it on TV, it's just like, oh, I got to get my ticket out of the hood, and it's mostly put on Black athletes, but working in college football, it's every athlete. That is their goal. It looks different, but that's everybody's goal. But anyway, with that identity can be, I need to do this. This is who I am. I got to get there. I got to get there. And so they've never really tapped into their true identity because they've been stuck in this athletic identity that has been, in a sense, forced on them, allowed for them to only think about different things like that. So we had a great opportunity to do DISC assessments or other leadership assessments that then identify. We had one player who's like, that makes sense. I remember him just having a eureka moment. This is why I interact like this. This is why my dad, like, it was just incredible. And so you get an opportunity in the role in player development to help your players understand who they are. I always say this, self-awareness is the best awareness, okay? Self-awareness is best awareness, and you're able to do that through a lot of different avenues in player development. Are you enjoying this breakdown? Are you enjoying the screen shares, the knowledge, you seeing the documents, me taking time to sit down with you and walk you through the topic that we're talking about? Well, if you are enjoying this, you would love the Player Development Academy. The Player Development Academy will provide these types of experiences for you. We'll help you find clarity, direction, and elite communication in the role to create the impact you want to create in the lives of athletes. For the last 3 years of building Beyond the Field, I have gotten numerous questions about this position, and this academy is built to answer every question that I have and ensure that you, who would be a part of the academy, will be fully prepared for the player development opportunity when it comes for you. So if you're interested in the Player Development Academy, join the wait list. Click the link in the show notes. It's only 15 spots. It's going to be a very intimate, close, organic group, and we're going to grow together. But I want to see you there. Join the wait list. You create a strong alumni pipeline. This is the biggest thing I tell people that is missing in athletics, probably university, just overall alumni pipeline. You can build a strong alumni pipeline. Alumni want to help their university. They want to help their university. I graduated from University of Houston in their sports management department. And when I was at the University of Houston, I would have came back and talked to students. I was at Kansas, I would have came back and talked to students. When I was at Baylor, I would have came back and talked to students. I'll come back and talk to students right now. There is a huge thing that people miss with alumni. Alumni are already passionate about the place they are at. If U of H called me right now during this call, I might stop, or during this recording, I might stop the recording to see what they're talking about. But you can see the passion. If I'm like that, there has to be a lot of more players that are like that, athletes like that for whatever program you have, who have given their blood, sweat, and tears. And I know a lot of you all, it's a lot of transfer portal now, and like, oh, they don't want an alumni, which, whatever. That, I'm not here for that. What I'm saying is, player development can create a strong alumni pipeline. I enjoy my time in a role meeting with alumni, creating alumni events, sitting down, having lunch with alumni, bringing alumni back to the facility. It's a big, big thing. My guy, Rod Rookchungu, who's at Georgia State, is doing a great job. Georgia State's a young football program. And what Rook is doing, he is bringing a lot of alumni back. He's creating this strong alumni pipeline. What happens when you do that is not only do they get back and they get to see this, but your players get relationships. There's opportunities, career opportunities, and you're helping. You never know which one of those alum. I mean, let's keep it a buck. If you have a former player who played for you, they have genes, like their sons or daughters may be athletes, and there's a recruiting aspect, which we'll talk about a little later. But the alumni pipeline is huge. You have to take care of your alumni. I could talk about this so much. I might do a podcast dedicated to it, but I get so passionate about this because this is missed on so many levels by so many programs. There are some that do well. Shout out to my guy Antoine McLean at Clemson. He does an incredible job. He played there, but he does an incredible job with the alumni barbecue, the alumni meetups in different places. He goes to NFL franchises and meets with the former players. There's a strong alumni pipeline, not just athletes, but overall. I was at the University of Houston and I went to the business school and I talked to one of the staff members there. I said, hey, do you have an email where I could send these things to those who are alumni? And I could say, hey, we want to work with, we want our players to work with you. And I remember the lady, she said, hey, our people, they might not reach back out. They're probably not going to get with you, whatever. And I'm sitting there like, okay, just give me the email. So I sent it to the listserv. Literally in 30 minutes, I had 6 emails. So alumni overall for their university, people love their universities. So take advantage of that love. Sorry, I had to stop the screen share because I'm passionate about that part. It's a lot that you can do there to not only service your former players, but to service your current players at your program. All right, let's get back to this share. All right, branding. Player development can help with the branding of a program, right? So one thing now is, of course, everything's on social media, everything's on TikTok. And what I'll do is I'll stop share and keep talking so you can see different things. And this is probably better for my clips I do on YouTube and Instagram. But anyway, one thing you see is I saw whenever we did something, I would put it online. Shout out to Will Baggett, who told me that. Will Baggett said, hey, you have to put out what you're doing. But it helped us. Parents were retweeting it. Parents were getting involved. Schools were getting involved. Different organizations would do it. So it branded our program as, hey, at the University of Houston, where Will gave me this advice, they care about this. They care about player development. They care about getting in the community. They care about this. So it helps brand not only your program, but honestly, the head coach. So if you're a coach listening to this and you allow player development and you give the resource to your player development professional, it's all going to go back to you. It's all going to go back to you. I had some struggles working with coaches that would be like, man, this is about you. And I'm like, at the end of the day, nobody's going to care nobody's going to say, hey, look at what Ed Jones is doing. Like there's a few, but in the grand scheme of things, they're not going to say, oh, the players under Ed Jones are doing well. They're going to say, no, the players, this head coach's programs, players are great at what they do. So it helps brand, it helps, and we're going to talk about recruiting advantage, but it helps brand your program, specifically for coaches who get to press conferences and say, hey, we're going to do a lot of great things on and off the field. It helps brand that. Then it gets your logo out, right? It gets the team out. We would get the University of Houston. We always wear Houston shirts that visibly said Houston. We would hand shirts out. We would hand posters out. KU, same thing. We would hand out stuff that said KU. We take pictures, kids there, they're seeing it. The schools would then post it. Teachers would then post it. Coaches would then post it, or PE teachers who would only be in elementaries. Administrators would post it. So you're just, this brand is growing. So literally this happened at the University of Houston. I put on Facebook, hey, we went to one school. I posted, I said, hey, if anybody knows any teachers that would love for us to come, hit me up. That post had 100-something comments. So we went all around the city. It was awesome. So it helps with the branding of your program that, hey, this program is not only winning on the field, they're winning off the field. That matters to a lot of people. And it definitely matters to some people who give that. You know what I'm saying? Fundraise that. Dollar bill, y'all. All right. So recruiting advantage. I kind of talked about it a little bit there. There's a recruiting advantage to player development. When a parent comes in, I literally saw this at a university. This university will be unnamed, but they had an incredible player development presentation. I was doing some evaluation for them, looking at their program, seeing what they were doing, and giving them a report back. If you would like something like that, please let me know. Definitely would love to come evaluate what you're doing and let you know the goods, bads, and areas for growth and enhancement. But anyway, I'm watching this video. I'm like, yo, this is elite. While I'm saying it, this mother is crying because she saw what her young son could do at this program, as a part of this program. She saw what they did and the impact, and she's like, I want them to make that impact. I remember she came to tears. That is a recruiting advantage with player development. The other advantage is you can now touch people all around, so they don't have to wait till they come to your campus, because you can't do official visits for every single person, right? Or unofficial visits for every single person. they can come, they can, excuse me, they can see that, and then they can say, hey, like, whoa, this is what they do at this school. This is what they do here. Wow, that's awesome. Like, that's elite. That's great. Man, look at what they're doing. And so you have a huge recruiting advantage. Coaches go into the house and they talk to these parents and they say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it. This is what it looks like. This is how we get it done. Coaches would ask me at KU, they said, Jones, what do I tell a mother or a father when I'm in their house? I said, tell them that we're going to do three things. Take care of their son. Their son's going to take care of the community. We'll take care of their son's career when they're done playing. Boom, that's it, right? But there's a huge recruiting advantage. Shout out to all the programs who get stuff out on social media. I know the University of Texas, my guy Kevin Washington, they did somewhere. They went to Indeed, which is in Austin, Texas, downtown. And what Kevin did a great job of showing that the football stadium could be seen from there. And they did an incredible job of showing the athletes. If you come to UT, like you come to Austin, the state capital of my home state, Texas, this can happen. You look at Savannah Bailey at Florida and you see what they did when they've done these trips, when they go to LA, or I believe they went to Japan this year. There's a lot of video that you get to see these great things, just there's a lot there. And that's a recruiting advantage because you're tugging at the hearts of parents who want their sons or daughters in other sports to do more. They don't want them to just be athletes. Some parents, but most parents do want there to be an impact greater than just what they compete in. So huge recruiting advantage there. If you need any more tips on that aspect, hey, you know what to do. Hit me up. All right, let's go to the last one here. And the last benefit is generational impact. This is something I'm big about. You know what I say at the end of every podcast? Do you? Do you? Go out and create generational impact. Don't wait, create that generational impact today. Don't wait, create it today. But generational impact is something that you can do. And this is something where I made it as broad as possible because you never know what one seed can do. One player creating a resume, you don't know what that ripple effect can do. One player getting their highest GPA, you don't know what that ripple effect can do. One player going to a elementary school, you don't know what that can do for that person and for other people in their lives. One player going on an externship or following someone around, shadowing somebody, you don't know what that can do. One player taking their mental health, priority in mental health, you don't know what that can do for them and so many other people. Maybe nobody ever did in their family and now they do it. Generational impact, there are so many stories in the role of generational impact. I'll give you one real quick that I love talking about, or two I love talking about. There are two that had to do with the community. I had a player at Kansas, his name was Api Mane. And Api was great personality. I mean, incredible personality. All the players loved him. He would have these cookouts and all this. But I realized one day, I was like, man, he never gets in the community. And so I was like, Api, man, come on, let's go to the community. He's like, man, I don't want to go. I don't want to go, I don't know, man. I don't know about being around kids, whatever. So I kept asking him to go. So he went to a couple. And he came because his homeboys came and they're like, nah, you coming, like you coming. If I'm driving around campus, you got to come with me. And he came and he just enjoyed. We had like a football camp set up and he enjoyed it. He had so much fun. He went back home, COVID hit, so he had to go back home. He's from California. And we had a couple calls and checking on players. He's like, Coach, man, I appreciate you taking me to that event because now I'm doing football camps in California. So he was running his own football camps to keep himself in shape, but also for the players during COVID. And of course, they spread out and did everything they had to do in California by law. But he was doing all these things to help other kids, and it stuck with me. He said, "Man, I'm so glad I did this. Like I'm literally seeing impact in my community." And what happened was, Oppie was a semifinalist for the Danny Warfel Award, which is the highest award for community service in college football. So that was a great story there. Another story of generational impact. Another story is Alexander Myers. Shout out to Alex Myers if you're watching this. So Alexander Myers, incredible story. Walked in my office from another university. He was going to walk on. Was like, Coach, I'm going to make the team. I was like, man, we'll see you at workout. He ran his 40. It was a 4.37. I said, step off the field. You made the team. But anyway, when we were doing our summer externships, Alex said, hey, I would like to be around entrepreneurs. So we found a former All-American kicker, an alumni named Sebastian Villarreal, who had a impressive company as an entrepreneur. He was doing very, very well. So Alex learned from him. They stayed connected. It was awesome. Now Alex is an entrepreneur, sells coffee. I'm gonna actually put the link in the show notes so you can get some coffee. But that's the impact, right? You meet someone else, a former player, alumni, once again, that's strong, who told him you can do it. You can be an entrepreneur. Alex had a 4 or 5 year career in the NFL, and then he retired, and now he has his own company. He's doing a lot of different things. That's the generational impact. That little seed, you never know how it helps, but it definitely does benefit your program. All right, on this slide, we're going to talk about player development impact areas. So these are areas where player development can impact. Not going to spend a lot of time here because I think that you all, some of these are self-explanatory and some of these are repetitive. So I don't want to spend a lot of time there. But if you want a deeper dive into this, if you want a deeper dive into these impact areas, the player development beginners course is the course for you. It's in the show notes, or you can reach out to me either way. All right, so let's get into it. So we have player wellness is an impact area, community impact, career development. You heard me talk about that. Mentorship, of course, is a area that player development impacts. Alumni relations, y'all heard me burn on that. Academics, of course. Programming is where there's a great impact on how you do programming, your yearly calendar. Player relations. So I see player relations as everything that relates to the player outside of the scope of football and, in a sense, programming. So this could be literal relationships, housing, other things, just other little things that have to get done. Recruiting, huge. I did a podcast on recruiting. It is actually, you can find it right here. That is a big one. NIL. Hey, I got some podcasts on NIL as well. Team building, huge, huge. I may do a segment on team building. Once again, if you're interested, let me know. I did a lot of great team building programming at Baylor. It was really, really good. It was my first time doing a full summer of team building, and it ended up being incredible, way better than I thought it would be. Family relations is another area. So once again, I knew family members, I knew parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, guardians, significant others, friends, roommates. I mean, I knew a lot. I knew more than they thought I knew. And then newcomer transition. So these are areas where player development can impact and will impact is definitely the better word to be used there. So that's a lot. That's that scope. And this is why I'm having this presentation. I want to talk about what player development is. I want to dive a little deeper with these slides into the impact areas that player development provides. Once again, if you want more information on these specific areas, there is a course in the show notes. I know you're getting a lot of information about a lot of resources, but they are there to help you. They are there to help you. After this podcast, I'm going to have to take a little break to prepare for the in-person Player Development Summit. Had to figure out a location, some other things. We're close. Got to get sponsors, got to get venues, got to get speak, all of that, right? So I want to give you this last podcast for a while. I want to make sure you know that all these resources are there for you. It could be resource overload, but I'm telling you, I have, as you see in this, and I'm just talking to you all real quick. As you see in this PowerPoint, these slides, I really pour a lot to help you understand. These resources not only help you understand, but help you have success if you're looking to get into the role or if you're in the role. If you're looking to get into it, it will definitely prepare you for success. If you're in the role, it will create the success you want to see. So just want to serve you all, want to make sure that you all that are interested, that you all want to know, you coaches that are thinking about getting it, have all the information you have. And so that's why there are a lot of resources. I've created a lot in the last 3 to 4 years, because once again, in 2016, when I started, I did not know what I was doing. All right, let me get off my resource soapbox. But once again, these resources are for you. All right, so coaches, you may be watching this, or you may know a coach, and you may have to explain to a coach like how player development. I know I talked about the benefits, but maybe you can't go over this whole entire slide, or your coach doesn't have enough time to watch however long this video is going to be. So you may say, hey, I need 3 quick areas where player development can affect your program. The 3 quick areas are, it can affect your players, your program and staff, and then external relations or relationships. And so we're going to dive into that a little bit here. This is a little bit or a tidbit taken away from my book I wrote called The Coach's Guide to Player Development, which is in the show notes. But yeah, this is a little tidbit from that. All right, so when we look at the impact it can have on players, there's three major areas. Once again, these are a few. I explain them all in the Coach's Guide to Player Development book. But those three areas are leadership, mentorship, and communication clarity. Leadership, right? The program can help your leaders. It can help your leaders lead. And that's not only players, okay? But in the player impact, it can help with leadership, mentorship. So having someone in this role, most people in this role are going to care about relationships, going to be relationship builders, so they're able to mentor every level athlete you have. And then communication clarity. In this role, when a head coach understands what they want to do in player development and have full security or full belief and have full support of the person in the role, there can be communication clarity for not only the players to the coaches, but the coaches to the players. So that there's this communication clarity that everybody understands what's being needed. I worked for coaches who knew what they wanted and who had complete support of me in the role and clearly communicated that so I could communicate clearly to the players. And then I had coaches who did not do that. So that was tough as well. But these are ways it can impact the players. The leadership, the mentorship, and the coach having clarity on what the program's doing through communication with the person in the player development role. All right, here's how it can impact your program and staff. Academic support. Everywhere I was at, I was an academic liaison. I enjoyed it, but you have another person to help the academic staff. So I was the ears, or I was the person everywhere I was at. Academics would ask, where are we at? What is our program? So I'm able to talk to academics. Academics is then able to tell me what we can do for that. I'm able to communicate with the coach, like I talked about earlier. But yeah, you have that academic support where I'm working hand in hand with academics. Nobody gets caught off guard. Hey, we got a bowl game coming up. How many guys how many guys? I remember my first time when Todd Orlando became our interim head coach for a week at the University of Houston. I wanted to go on the road to recruit Alex Brown. I passed my recruiting test. I was so excited to go to high schools and meet with coaches. Coach Orlando said, "Hey, I want you to get with academics, make sure these guys are good." So we pulled out guys and made sure guys were good for the bowl game. It all worked out. So you have that academic support for the program staff. Insight for coaches. You have an opportunity to provide insight for coaches because you're mentoring players. So for instance, I was a player who had a death in the family, and I was able to talk to the coach. And I didn't get a chance to get the coach before practice, but we had opportunities during practice where the coach was very emotionally intelligent. And so he didn't take off on the kid. I was able to talk to him after practice. Hey, coach, I found out, I think I found out during practice right before, but I didn't get a chance to get to the coach. Coach, I found out his uncle passed. And so the coach said, oh, that makes sense. That's why he was like this today. Once again, that coach was very emotionally intelligent. He didn't go off on the kid. He knew something was up, but I was able to give him that insight. So then he was able to bring the kid in, talk to the kid. I was able to tell the strength coach. Strength coach was able to then, hey, this happened. I was able to tell academics. I was able to tell our head coach. I was able to tell everybody involved. And so there's that insight. Insight on team morale. You can say, hey, this is what the team needs. Story at a university I worked at, which will not be named, but the players, it was fall camp, and the players were saying, hey, we want to go. Everybody in fall camp, there's some break where a coach takes them bowling, takes them, paintballing, takes them to the water park. There's a break. The players all know it. And the other thing is social media tells the players, they're looking at other programs like, oh, they went to the water park. Oh, they went go-karting. Okay, cool. All right, well, it's probably about our time. It normally happens middle of the second week of fall camp going into the third week. So anyway, these players clearly told me, Ed, we want to go to a water park. We want to go to a water park. They clearly told me that. There was no confusion. It was consensus that the entire team want to go to water park. So I went to our coaching staff. I said, hey, just want to let y'all know they want to go to a water park. I talked to our head coach and our chief of staff. I said, they want to go to a water park. They want to go to a water park. I let them know, we don't know if it's going to happen. I said, I'm just letting you know that these guys want to go to a water park. So what happened was we ended up not going to a water park. The players were actually in the room. They knew we were going to do something. And we ended up we picked walk-ons instead of going to a water park. So the players didn't know that. They're in there. We had a big player. He's got his shirt off. Like he's waving in the team room. He's like, yeah, we're going to water park. We're going to water park. We're going to a water park. And he's hyped. Everybody's hyped. They're like, water park, water park. water park. So then our head coach goes up. He says, hey guys, we're not going to a water park. And you could literally see the air come out of the room. So I was a little frustrated because I clearly communicated with them. Players looking at me like, man, come on, Ed Jones. I said, look, I did what I could do, right? We go to practice. We have the biggest fall camp fight I've seen in a while. And what made me, it was bad. I was frustrated at the players, but what made me even more frustrated, we had a GM from the NFL who came to our practice because his daughter played on the softball team. So he dropped his daughter off to college for softball. It's like, hey, let me come to football practice. Of course you can come to football practice. A GM of a professional football team came to our practice and we had this big fight. And I was so frustrated in my office because number one, I had clearly communicated what the players wanted. It was about the same cost. And that was frustrating. But the second thing was our players were frustrated because they weren't heard. And then they had a big fight in front of an NFL GM, which is like this was avoidable. So now the GM he spoke to our players and let them know like you can't do that. What are y'all doing? So now he goes back, says those guys at this university are rowdy, they can't handle it, blah blah blah. And it's frustrating for me because if we just took the insight that I had on the team morale, maybe we avoid all that. Now we probably don't practice. He doesn't see practice, but we could have said, hey, we're going to practice periods 1 through 6. We'll go 1 through 6. We'll get a team, and then we'll go to the water park, right? Whatever. The players they knew. They told me, hey, we got to practice a little bit. We fine. We just want to go to the water park. So anyway, that was something that would have benefited our program and our staff. Once again, going back to if the head coach and administration would have listened, but that's something to learn. But once again, I'm telling you all, you coaches and staff and administrators, that person in the role knows what's going on. So just take time to listen to them. And the last thing, external relationships, community engagement, campus engagement, and alumni engagement. I already talked about community engagement. I already talked about alumni engagement. Campus engagement is huge. You're talking about housing. You're talking about the orientation team. You're talking about relationships with registration, relationships with library. I mean, you'll be shocked like how many different people, student council, student organizations, not student council, student government, student organizations. So that campus engagement, this person in the role for coaches that are looking at this, say, how can this help? You can have someone who is engaged in the community, the campus, and your alumni, which I won't dive too much on. Campus engagement, I'll give you one story about campus engagement before we end. When I was at the University of Houston, in player development, you have to help with recruiting. Once again, I talked about the recruiting PowerPoint I had there, not PowerPoint, podcast I had there. And so what I did was I like relationships. I love talking to people. I went to our orientation team and said, hey, or our campus visit team, whatever you want to call them, campus tour team. I said, hey, do you mind? It was orientation. I said, do you mind coming to our games? And, and it was an idea actually from Joel Kozer. I was the one who talked to us at the University of Houston. I was the one who spoke to them. And so we got them to come meet us and we said, hey, we need y'all to talk to parents. We don't know certain things about this or that. Can you all come and talk to our parents about the campus, about, the history of the programs, all that? They came. It was incredible. We had an advantage in recruiting because now if you just want to look numbers wise, we added 20 people to the room. So our coaches come for a little bit. Our staff was 6 people. We had a couple interns, but you had 20 people and now they're talking to everybody. You had to sit at every table. And so we had this person who's sitting at the table who's talking about the campus, not the football stuff, but the campus stuff that we couldn't answer. And then I went to University of Houston, but a lot had changed. And so that is an aspect of campus engagement that worked. All right, so there it is. That is a detailed description of player development. I talked about a lot of stuff. I talked about a lot of resources during this, but I wanted to dive deep into what is player development. This is the Player Development Pod. I have a player development newsletter, which you can subscribe to. I'm passionate about this space, so I wanted to take time. I know I kid. I know I get asked it a lot, and I'll probably get asked what it is right after this video, but wanted to create this as a resource to send to people, but also for people who are interested in what player development is. Once again, as I alluded to in a little break, if you love this breakdown or this type of teaching aspect where I'm sharing slides, talking about stuff in detail, you will love the Player Development Academy. Join the waiting list. It is in the show notes. I want to see y'all there. As I said earlier, also, you're going to see a break here from podcasting, I got to get ready for the Player Development Summit. I want this to be great. This will be the first time doing it in person. I am so thankful, but I do have to dedicate time to that. I appreciate all you all who show up weekly, who have seen this. This is podcast episode 156 or 7, I believe. And so go and look at other podcasts. If you haven't subscribed to the Player Development Newsletter, I will continue writing content there. We have a couple more 5-Minute Fridays coming out. I may still do those, but I'm really have to focus on this Player Development Summit, which I want you to be there, and we will drop the location soon. Thank you all for your support. I can't thank you enough for the likes. Matter of fact, if you learned a lot in this video, press like, share, subscribe. I cannot thank you enough for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, the different messages about how this has impacted you. You all have impacted me. Thank you so much. And that is my Ed Talk on what player development is. Go out and create generational impact. Don't wait. Create that generational impact today. And check out this video that YouTube thinks is the best for you. I'll see y'all. And it's going to be some big announcements coming. Y'all have a great one.